good evening and welcome to our July Smyrna Town Council meeting. On our meeting agenda, you'll see public comment, and the town's public comment period shall be reserved for those citizens that have signed up to address the town council or a board or committee at least 24 hours in advance of the meeting, pursuant to the town's public comment policy as outlined above. And tonight, we have quite a few. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We have 13 people that have signed up to speak. So a couple of things. If, when you come forward to the podium, you'll state your name, your address, if you live inside the city limits of Smyrna, if you're here representing an engineering firm or a board or committee, if you'll just let us know that. And you will have 3 minutes to speak. And Miss Amber over there is strict on the 3 minutes, so she
I'm trying
is.
to go
she
home
is
tonight.
So you will have 3 minutes to speak. So first on the list is Mike Burke. Oh, so is it going to be Marie?
Yes.
Okay, so Marie, since you're first, just a reminder, name, address, if you live in the city limits of Smyrna, and then you'll have 3 minutes.
Marie Burke, 6304 Lee Road, and we currently live in the county.
Okay.
Myself, along with my husband Mike, as I say, we live at 6304 Lee Road. A portion of our land was discussed at the Planning Commission meeting last week for annexation and a PRD zoning request to build approximately 47 homes. We would like to say that we're in favor of this development going forward. We have owned our property for 40 years and have lived on it for 38 of those years. During those 40 years, we have watched Weatherford County grow, have watched the subdivisions being built to accommodate the growth. We have raised our children who are now married, have children of their own, and not only live in Smyrna, but are also teachers in the Weatherford County school system. Over the past several years, we've had multiple offers on our property from various developers. Several of these offers we did not consider, as we did not feel that the developments being proposed were a good fit for our community, as they were proposing either rental properties, townhomes, or a combination of both. We really wanted to see single-family homes. After we were invited by David Weekley Homes to visit some of their local developments, and after they showed us what they were planning on building, we felt they would be a good fit for the community. They are single-family homes. They have a good plan for the green space, the spring area, and a proposed walking trail through all those spaces. We enjoy the area so much, our plan is to remain part of the community on Lee Road, as we will have a home built by David Weekley Homes on the front 6+ acreage of the property. This also offers a buffer between the subdivision and Lee Road, because we'll be on the front acreage of the property and the subdivision will be behind us. And we plan on leaving as many trees as we can other than clearing off what we'll be building for the home. And it's a very wooded area. You may ask, if we enjoy the area so much, why are we selling any part of our property? The simple fact is we are getting older. The property is getting very hard to maintain, along with a house that is 38 years old. We have been good stewards of our land over the years, and the time has come for the land to now take care of us. Our way of life was agriculture. That has changed. We never see it going back to what it was. We have not tried to stop any development around us, as we feel that a landowner has the right, within reason, to decide what to do with their land. During this process, up to this time, we feel that David Weekley Homes has shown honesty and integrity, and that is what is very important to us. We would like to say again that we are in favor of this development going forward.
Thank you so much. Okay, next I have Mike Smith.
I'm Mike Smith. I live at 5074 Rock Springs Road. I'm here to speak against rezoning from Maple Farms. It has become clear over the last couple of months that there is a revision of the Smyrna zoning code that is needed as development begins to encroach on the more rural parts of the city, with this case being a major case in point. There seems to be a general acceptance that there's a gaping hole in the current zoning standard to address the transition from high density to lower density. I feel that this development, along with Cook's Lane, should be delayed until that can be addressed. There should not be a rush to move these developments along until that is done. If the developer finds that to be detrimental to his business plan, he can always sell to a local or regional developer that has a business plan that develops, for example, 1 acre lots with upscale housing. After all, they are a multi-billion-dollar company that can absorb the setback much better than the local homeowners that can absorb the deterioration of their quality of life and property values. While I don't think you will find any of us chained to construction equipment in protest, I do think that many of us will stay engaged enough to continue the discussion as other developments encroach on rural areas. While the planning board approved this under the guise of being consistent, this body is a policy people, and this body is the policy people, this body being you, and are responsible to the people of Smyrna to ensure that their interests are being protected. Take the steps to define a comprehensive zoning system and delay the implementation of these developments until that is completed.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Mark Briers.
My name is Mark Briers. I live at 225 Governor's Way in Brentwood, but I do own the 5 acres at the corner of Rock Springs and Cook Lane. So directly behind me is the Cook project, and 2 lots down is the Maple Farms project. So when eventually the roads get widened, my lot will be impacted on 2 sides. So I'm here today to voice my opposition to the Maple Farms project. I'm not opposed to all development. I just want it to be a transitional neighborhood between the density of Gwen Farms and the rural field down at my end of the road. I was at the Planning Commission meeting last week, and it was my observation that what was presented took the previously rejected Maple Farms proposal and tweaked it just enough to try and make it more appealing, shift around a few lots, and try to hide the neighborhood from the outside views. In my opinion, watching this process was kind of like the expression, trying to put lipstick on a pig, because it didn't fundamentally change the character of the proposed neighborhood. What do I mean by character? I hear discussions emphasizing housing density and average lot size, which I agree are good metrics, but they are not sufficient to get a sense for what it would be like to live there. Characteristics like how far back from the road are the first houses? Are there a mix of lot sizes? What is the minimum house size? Are there restrictions on the direction garage doors face? How wide are the streets? Is there street or common area parking? In other words, if several residents wanted to throw a Super Bowl party, can the neighborhood accommodate their guests? I could go on, but you get the idea. Perhaps the most important aspect is, does this neighborhood's character provide a good transition between the adjacent neighborhood's character? And I understand at the last council meeting, the Vineyard neighborhood was referenced as a positive example. What is the character of the Vineyard? Well, houses are not up against the main road. The smallest lot, not the average lot, is 10,000 square feet. That's just under 1/4 of an acre, and the largest being an acre. The smallest lot width for houses along a straight stretch of road is 80 feet. This impacts several things. Allows for generous spacing between the houses, enough room for some side-facing garages, and the ability to park a half a dozen guest cars either on your lot or in front of your house without impacting the neighbors to your left or right. I wish I had more time. My opinion is that we should emulate the Vineyard, and I would like to voice support for using that housing character in the transitional neighborhood of Maple Farms. The Maple Farms owners have said they are selling because of the density next door. If anything close to that density is allowed to continue, then the ripple effect of this type of development will eventually overrun all of the neighbors. Please don't let that happen. No more lipstick. Please reject this proposed plan and hold out for something more transitional and of better character. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Don Hill?
Dawn Hill, 5007 Rock Springs Road. I'm in the city limits.
Thank you.
I'm speaking in opposition to Maple Farms. I understand that my desire to maintain 5-acre lots next to my property may not be realistic, and that there must be compromise about the Maple Farms proposed development. But we need to look at this development in its entirety, not just focusing on wider or deeper lots along Mrs. Reasanover's property line. At the last town council meeting, the neighboring property owners of Maple Farms and Century Communities were asked to consider a development plan like the Vineyards, which already exists along Rock Springs Road, as an alternative development plan for Maple Farms. And that way, a transition could be created to soften the abrupt change in density from Gwen Farms to our acreage homes. While we have hosted several neighborhood meetings with Century Communities to discuss using the vineyards as a density model that meets what the town council asked for and what we can live with, they refused to consider such a development plan. I thought a side-by-side comparison of the two developments might be helpful to review. I call your attention to your handout. Exhibit A shows a scaled side-by-side comparison of Maple Farms proposal and the vineyard subdivision. The small rectangular boxes below the development plans are a side-by-side comparison of a smaller 1/4 acre lot in the vineyards and a typical lot in Maple Farms. As you can see, Maple Farms density mimics Gwen Farms, not the vineyards. Exhibit B describes the statistics for each development. The vineyards is comprised of 58.3 acres with lot sizes ranging from 1/4 acre to 1 acre in size, with 20-foot setbacks and side entrance garages. There are 58 1/4 acre lots and 73 lots ranging in size from 1/3 acre to 1 acre. Therefore, the perceived density is not only lowered but varied, rather than the narrow lots that all look the same if one were to drive through the Maple Farms development. Maple Farm is comprised of 40.1 acres, but because of topography issues, it only has 29 acres of buildable land. The lot sizes in Maple Farms begin at 4,500 square feet, with the largest single lot being 17,000 square feet of mostly hillside. Meanwhile, Exhibit C shows a side-by-side comparison of a typical cul-de-sac for each development we're discussing. There's a comparison of the lot sizes on the lower half of the page. The comparison is glaringly dissimilar. The density of Maple Farms alone does not meet the threshold for a transition between Gwen Farms and our acreage properties because the bulk of the lots are between 4,500 and 6,000 square feet rather than the vineyards, which has 1/4 to 1 acre lots, with the majority of the lots 1/3 of an acre or larger. We understand development of this land will not be the 5-acre lots we would like, and that there has to be give and take, but Century Communities will not even discuss creating a subdivision plan like the vineyards with the minimum lot sizes of 1/4 acre. They want the higher density model of Gwen Farms and inflate their descriptions of what they are calling 1/4 acre lots within the plan and along our properties to appear that they are offering an olive branch to adjacent property owners and the town council. I ask you to deny rezoning of Maple Farms development plan until Century Communities gets serious about creating a development plan that is truly the transition between Gwen Farms and our acreage homes that we all want it to be.
3 minutes, Mayor.
Thank you for your time and consideration of my request.
Thank you. Next is Ken Hill.
Ken Hill, 5007 Rock Springs Road in the town of Smyrna.
Thank you.
I got 3 points to touch base on tonight. I'm speaking in opposition to the latest submission of Maple Farms development. This development you've already denied May 14th, and the most recent submitted plan does not meet the gradual transition you all requested from Century Communities in your last meeting. We've met with Century Communities multiple times in an effort to work out that gradual transition solution. Please see Exhibit A. The Vineyards development along Rock Springs was offered as a good example of a gradual transition with varying lot size we believe the town council is looking for. But Century Communities is opposed to the lower density. We feel that the current plan is not to the level of gradual transition you all have been requested of Century. Please see Exhibit C on lot sizes. 2, I believe the Planning Commission was provided some incorrect information in last week's meeting about the vineyards, which swayed their decision. So I offer the following data, a better comparison. Please see Exhibit B. The vineyards, 58 lots of 1/4 acre equaling 10,980 square feet. 73 lots, 1/3 acre, or 14,520 square feet, and 3 lots of an acre. Comparable, Maple Farms, 31 lots, approximately 4,500 square feet. 28 lots, approximately 6,500 square feet. 35 lots, about 9,000 square feet, and 10 at 12,000 square feet. Overpaying for the Maple Farms property and claiming they cannot make the development pencil out with less than 107 homes should not become the burden of Smyrna residents and the town council. Number 3, at the special called meeting June 5th, the planning department indicated there are 11,925 homes in the pipeline already. These homes were described as mainly starter homes with townhomes and 55-plus communities. Several town council members stated that the need for mid-level homes is in Smyrna. Homes with larger lots, built on 3,000+ square foot homes or greater. The Maple Farms and Cooks Road development are the perfect place to create this mid-range homes for larger lots that complement the acreage of the estate homes adjacent to it, rather than diminish them. This is an opportunity for Smyrna to demonstrate it as not becoming a starter home community, but rather there is a need for building those homes for those who desire a more open space opposed to a denser starter home production, as well as for Smyrna residents who have outgrown their current starter homes to move to a larger homes and be able to stay within the town of
3
Smyrna.
minutes, Mayor.
Please deny the following current proposal.
Thank you. Lisa Reasonover?
Good evening. My name's Lisa Reasonover. I'm at 4821 Rock Springs Road. I'm in the city limits. And just as I stated at the last meeting, my husband and I bought our land and built our house where we plan to stay forever. We were drawn to the large, beautiful tracts of land and estate homes. We worked hard for our land and our house, and our plan was, and still is, for it to be generational property. We know growth and development are inevitable, and our main goal here is not to stop either, but to ensure that the development of the property is done nicely, since whatever is going to be done to the land and whatever is going to be built there is going to be there forever. There's not a redo once this is done. We want it to be aesthetically pleasing, done in lower density, larger lot sizes, and larger homes. The neighbors in Century Communities were asked by the town council to consider an alternative plan to the one that was presented in May. The purpose was to create a gradual transition development between the high density of Gwen Farms and our properties. We have attempted to do this with Century Communities, but they haven't considered the plan that would be like the Vineyard subdivision, which the council used as an example. The Vineyard lots primarily are 1/3 to 1/2 acre, which is what we consider more in line with what is acceptable as a transition. My property is the most impacted, with about still 13 houses backed up against my driveway, which is still a large number of small houses on small lots. And again, I'm not trying to stop progress, only trying to be good stewards of the land for the residents of Smyrna and my neighbors. We already had a developer that came in and built Gwen Farms, and that's not been aesthetically pleasing, and we have to look at that every time we drive down Rock Springs Road. And I don't want to look out my window every day. Every window on the side of my house looks at where these houses are going to be. And I really don't think that the residents of Smyrna want another development of small homes on small lots, because we have plenty of that now. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Josh Miller? Oh, wait, did I miss somebody? Oh, sorry. Josh, wait 1 second. Robert Stevens, I'm sorry, I missed somebody.
He's unable to be.
Okay, so Josh, you're back on.
I'm Josh Miller at 4803 Rock Springs Road. I'm one of the parcel owners of Maple Farms.
So you're in the city
I am in the
limits?
city
Okay,
limits, yep. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm in front of you yet again to bring you the facts about Maple Farms. This rezoning proposal was turned down in May at the mayor and council meeting. And since then, Century Communities have met with the opposition, have taken comments from this body and made the following changes. Decreased some lots down from 125 to 107, which is a 15% reduction. Increased the average lot size. Committed to keeping all property line buffers with native trees and vegetation, which I think y'all have a packet of those pictures. Rock Springs Road right-of-way is now 30 foot from the property line instead of 30 foot from the right-of-way. Committed to the 20-foot buffer on the west side of Maple Farms to adjacent neighboring parcels. They dropped the lots from 19 down to 12 along the western property line. Increased minimum lot size from 50, 55, 60, and 65-foot wide lots to break up the roof lines for a more pleasing aesthetic. With all the previously mentioned changes and more, we feel Century Communities has gone above and beyond to satisfy previous comments at the May mayor and council meeting and the requested town hall meetings with the neighbors. I feel their request of 2.66 lots per acre is very reasonable and acceptable for all bodies at today's PRD criteria and requirements set by the city of Smyrna. With Maple Farms having 34 lots that are a quarter acre or larger, equaling over 31% of the proposed PRD, we feel this makes Maple Farms a true transitional neighborhood from Gwen Farms that was requested by the committee and adjoining neighbors. Using today's rezoning requirements, we appreciate the mayor and council's support in the rezoning of Maple Farms.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John Lewis?
How you doing? John Lewis, 5534 Cooks Lane, Smyrna.
In the city limits?
I'm sorry?
Are you in the city limits?
I am in the city limits.
Okay, thank you.
I appreciate the opportunity to address the council on this matter once again. In the last meeting, several people who lived in the Rock Springs area communicated their concerns for preserving the ambience and country living atmosphere we've all enjoyed over the years. Being a landowner there myself, I too would love to see the area preserved over time. Unfortunately, the rapid growth in both Nolensville and Smyrna has made our area even more desirable and, of course, a focus for development. With the Gwen Farms project in full swing, as well as the previous final approvals of the Cooks Lane subdivision, the precedence for home style and lot sizing has been cast. While changing the development appeal for the area is not practical, what I feel is practical is to see any development that does occur to be well-planned, well-designed, and well-managed. Today, this council is considering the proposed rezoning to include the Maple Farms project. I personally believe zoning with single-family detached homes in well-designed, well-planned subdivisions is our best hope to preserve any semblance of what we've enjoyed in the Rock Springs area. To try and change precedents and pass this opportunity over now and kick the can down the road to be considered at a future time opens the door to many known and unknown considerations, some good and many not so good. Nothing in life remains the same. This council has overseen historic growth and has clearly a tenured sense of what's good for our community. But how many of you will still be serving in 2 or 3 years from now when possibly another developer presents plans for maybe even a higher density project? How will the Rock Springs area look and feel with condominiums, townhomes, or even apartments? If we wait and bypass what appears to be a well-planned initiative, the greater the chance becomes of a much different picture in the future. I understand the developer on the Maple Farms project has met with concerned property owners, as well as having resubmitted and gotten new approval from the Planning Commission. After your review today, if you feel the new plan represents a well-designed project, I encourage this council to make a favorable decision to grant the necessary zoning this project needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Joe Morgan?
Joe Morgan, 4701 Rock Springs Road, Smyrna, Tennessee. I
In
do
the
live
city
in the
limits?
city.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for letting me be here tonight. I know we've gone over a lot, heard a lot. I don't want to be repetitious. The thing I would like to talk about is what I call the I-24 Lee Road, Rock Springs Road, Cooks Lane corridor. Currently, there is 580 acres, plus a little bit more, with a total of 2,263 lots that is actually in progress right now, that adjoins our corridor and everything. We just happen to be right at the tail end of it. Yes, we are right beside the Gwen Farms, which is a eyesore for all of us, we know that. But I ask for this body not to make us the scapegoat because of something got slipped by. We've made good progress to making more aesthetic houses and a nice subdivision. Well, we've gone back, we got revised from 3.2 lots per acre to 2.66, 107 lots. I also feel the body is wanting to go to the 10,000 square foot larger lots. With that being said, I think there's got to be a breaking point to stop the bleeding, as somebody said, before you can start putting a Band-Aid and stitching everything together. I feel like the Cooks Lane, Rock Springs Road, Williamson County, Rocky Fork Road corridor would meet all that future requests for what everybody's asking. We're right in the middle of the zoning now. We got all these smaller houses, smaller lots, even with Cooks Lane surrounding us. To go in there and try to put a 10,000 square foot lots in there right now, I don't know if anybody would want to buy the lot, build a house, and be able to live around that. So with that being said, I ask you for your support, take into consideration the future plan for what y'all request and looking forward to with your meetings and everything. Let's pass this thing and get it over with. Thank you.
John Morgan?
Good evening. John Morgan. I live at 121 Gwendolyn Court, Laverne, Tennessee. I do not live in Smyrna.
I was going to guess that, but I wasn't sure about that.
I do have 2 acres in the Maple Farms proposed development. Little history on the family. I was born and raised in Antioch, Tennessee, around Bell Road and Mount View Road, on a family farm that my grandparents owned. And we lived there off the farm for several years. And in 1975, I married and moved off. In the late 70s, Hickory Hollow Mall come in. And then my grandmother had to sell. My mother and father had 2 acres in the area too, and they sold. And when they sold, they bought the farm at 4701 Rock Springs Road. And when they moved there, they didn't have city water, nothing. They lived off the spring water. And, you know, that was their first and only house they actually owned. And as the years went on, Mr. Paul Johns bought the corner lot at Cooks Lane, Rock Springs Road, and Smyrna annexed the city limits all the way to the Williamson County line, and they got city water. And so my parents decided to leave us all 2 acres on that property to build on. We had to build, that was one of the stipulations that we had to build on it. A few years later, my father passed away, things changed, and as you can see, on down the road, all the growth comes that way, and it finally caught up to our property. You know, as we get older, and my mother's almost 88 years old, you can't take care of it, and she asked us, do we want to sell? I told her it's entirely up to her. You know, I don't have a dog at fight. If she wants to sell, that's her business. And my main problem with all of this, I can't believe you got 2 neighbors down there that's going to decide whether we can sell our property or not. And as far as anything else goes, I'm asking for the same consideration to Maple Farm development that y'all had on the Wind Farms and the Cooks Lane development. Thank you.
Thank you. Matthew Morgan? Okay, that concludes citizens' comments, and so we will now move into our meeting agenda, and I will call our meeting to order. And tonight, our chaplain is Tim York. Tim, are you out? Oh, there you are. Tim's going to do our prayer, and our pledge is going to be done by Interim Town Manager Jeff Peach. So if you'll all stand with us, please.
Let's pray. Our Father, we're grateful for the world that you created. Lord, in your great plan, you gave us government for which we are grateful. Romans teaches us that our servants who serve in that government act as your servants. I pray for the whole city of Smyrna today. I pray for all the residents. I pray for all those who serve the city in whatever capacity. I pray for the council tonight that you will give them wisdom and direction. And Father, in the end of the day, may you be glorified. We pray in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Please face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chaplain. Jeff, did you practice
I
today
did.
to make sure you're?
I
good?
did, in a mirror.
Okay, good. In the mirror, good. Miss Amber, if you'll do roll call.
Yes, ma'am. Councilwoman Peebles? Councilman Cole? Councilman Morrell?
Present.
Councilman Short?
Here.
Councilman Sullivan?
Here.
Vice Mayor Atkins?
Yes, here.
Mayor Reed?
Here. Okay, item 4 is approval or corrections of the minutes of the June 11th, 2024 regular meeting, the June 26th, 2024 special called meeting, and the June 27th, 2024 workshop meeting of the town council. Ben, are these in order?
They are.
Great. Council, any additions or corrections to any of these? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Minutes are passed. Item 5 and 6 is correspondence, communications, awards, and recognitions. Amber or Jeff, anything tonight?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Then we'll move on to item 7, which is our consent agenda. And the consent agenda are items that don't necessarily need to be discussed individually and are determined by the town manager. But if there's an item that council would like to vote on individually or has discussion about, we can pull that off and discuss it separately. So I do like to read these items so that council knows exactly what we're voting on, as well as those in the audience and those at home. So under our consent agenda tonight, we have approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to execute a contract renewal with Lumen Technologies Group to provide phone and internet services for the town of Smyrna. Item B is approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to execute a renewal agreement with Threader for internet security devices and services. Item C is approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to execute contract amendment number 2 with TDOT relative to State Route 1 US 41, which is Lowry Street project, to go from Jackson Street to the bridge over Harts Branch. Item D is approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to execute the proposal with Hayworth, Meyer, Bolin Professional Engineers LLC for survey and conceptual designs for the Amiable Road project. Item E is approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to execute the proposal with Collier Engineering Company Incorporated for construction plans and construction engineering and inspection services for the Enon Springs Road improvement projects. Item F is approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to execute a 1-year contract extension with Sweeping Corporation of America for roadway sweeping. Item G is approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to approve the rankings of the respondents to the request for qualifications for the right-of-way acquisition services for Florence Road sidewalks. And item H is approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to execute an agreement with Cummins Sales and Service for maintenance of the fire department generators and related equipment. And item I is consideration and authorization of a list of items to be declared surplus and auctioned online through GovDeals. Council, is there anything you'd like to discuss individually or have questions on? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda passes. Tonight, under old business, we have 8 public hearings. Our first item is consideration of an ordinance relative to an amendment of Title 12 Building and Utility Codes, Chapter 11 Electric Code, Section 12-1102 modifications. Christie? Hey.
Thank you, Council. This is a modification to the electrical code to allow us to kind of tighten up the grounding expectations that we have for single-family residences. Any questions I can help you with?
Council, any questions for Christie on this before we go to the public?
There's no changes from workshop.
No.
Okay, so at this time, we'll go to the public to see if there's anyone here to speak for or against this item. Seeing no one, we'll go back to the council for a motion.
Move to approve.
A motion to approve, do we have a second? Motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Our next public hearing is consideration of an ordinance relative to an amendment to Title 8 Alcoholic Beverages, Chapter 3 Retail Sales of Alcoholic Beverages, Section 8-327, Regulation of Sales. Ben, are you taking this?
I am.
Okay.
Mayor, this updates the allowable sale of retail liquor to include Sundays from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. And it mirrors the General Assembly's 2018 legislative changes to allow that.
And no changes since our last meetings.
No, ma'am.
Okay. Council, questions for Ben on any of this? Seeing no one having questions, we'll go to the audience to see if there's anyone here to speak for or against this item. Okay, no one wants to talk about alcohol, so we'll go to council for motion. We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Our third public hearing is a consideration of an ordinance to amend Title I, General Administration, Chapter 1, Town Council, Section 1-104, Order of Business relative to an update to the town's citizen comment policy. Ben?
Mayor, this updates the cutoff to be on the citizens' comment list from the Thursday before town council meeting to the last business day prior to the council meeting.
Okay. And that's going to be for any meetings that we do. So we thought it was important that citizens had as much time as possible to decide whether they wanted to speak and if what they wanted to see that was on the agenda. So is there, council, any questions on this? Nope. Okay. Then we'll go to the public to see if there's anyone here to speak for or against this. If you'll come forward and state your name, your address, and if you live in city limits.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Dan Eppright, 114 Seward Street, Smyrna, Tennessee. I live inside the city limits. I'm a First Amendment guy. I've been one for, well, really my entire adult life. I appreciate the direction the council is taking by making it easier for people to make public comment. You're not the only border commission that has had to deal with this issue, and some of them have tried to clamp down, and I think that is an error. Because every once in a while, people will say something at this mic that is of value to you and that will affect your decisions. And at the very least, if there's frustrations, the frustrations get aired. If you don't air those frustrations, they don't go away, they just don't get aired. So I appreciate this change, and I hope other boards and commissions model off your decisions.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak for or against this item? Okay, close the public hearing and go to council for a motion.
Make a motion, Mayor.
To approve.
To approve.
Have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion? I'll echo what Mr. Eppright says. I think it is really important that we hear what the citizens have to say. We might not always like what the citizens have to say from one side or the other, but I will tell you, there have been many times that our minds have been changed based on what the citizens have said. Our job up here is to represent the citizens of the town of Smyrna, and I think each one of us do that to the best of our ability. It may not always be something that you all agree with, but I can tell you we really try hard to do that. And interaction with the public is something that we all try to do, whether it's through email, whether it's through Facebook, whether it's through phone call, or whether it's seeing you in the grocery store. So we have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Our next public hearing, item D, is consideration of an ordinance amending the text of the Smyrna Municipal Zoning Ordinance, Article 3, General Provisions, and Article 7, Administration and Enforcement. Hey, Kevin.
Yes, Mayor and Council, these are amendments are to two different articles of the zoning ordinance, Article 3 and Article 7. The first one, Article 3, Section 3.120, is regarding changing the dates of our submittal deadlines, essentially moving them back a week to give to staff an additional week in order to review plans that are submitted to us. It will allow us more time to review those plans, as well as to provide better notifications to the surrounding neighbors when a rezoning or annexation request is made, gives us more time to make those, get the signs put up and send letters and those kind of things. And so that's Article 3's changed. Article 7 is 7.090. We basically just changed the state law changed as far as the dates of, or how many days prior to a public hearing that we have to put the legal notice in the newspaper for rezoning requests, from 15 days to 21 days. And so this would make that change so it is consistent with state law. Planning
Questions for,
Commission-
oh,
sorry.
sorry.
I was just going to say the Planning Commission did review these and did recommend approval.
Questions for Kevin on this? If this passes, getting it out to those that it's going to affect?
Yes, yeah, we would be, this wouldn't go into effect till that August submittal time for the September meeting, so we would have a month of lead time to get everybody notified.
Okay. Questions or comments for Kevin? Seeing none, then we'll go to the public to see if there's anyone here to speak for or against this item. Seeing no one, we'll close public hearing and go to council for a motion.
I'll move to approve. Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Our next item, item E, is consideration of a resolution relative to a plan of services for property located on tax map 55C, Group B, parcel 35.00.
Yes, this is the plan of services for the annexation request, which is the next item on your agenda. This does put into writing the services the town would be providing upon the effective date of annexation, which would be all services here except for water, which would be provided by a consolidated utility district. Sewer would be provided via extension of the wastewater main to the property by the property owner. Planning Commission did review this, did recommend approval. Staff would also recommend approval.
Council, we've had quite a bit of discussion about this property. Any other questions or comments before we go to the public hearing?
Nothing that we didn't already discuss at the workshop. I mean, this is a little bit of a challenging piece of property, but it's consistent with the things around it.
Other comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll go to the public to see if there's anyone here to speak for or against this item. Seeing no one, we'll close public hearing and go back to council for a motion.
I'll move we approve.
A motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Second, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item F is talking about this piece of property. It's just a consideration of an ordinance relative to the annexation in C2 zoning of property located on tax map 55C, Group B, parcel 35.00, requested by Hardik Patel on behalf of Sharia Incorporated, containing 87/100ths of an acre. Kevin?
Yes, Mayor and Council, this piece of property is on Allenville Road. It's about 400 feet east of the intersection with 1 Mile Lane. Land use plan would support medium-density, single-family in this area. Surrounding zoning is C2 in town and RM in Rutherford County. In addition to the requested property, staff did recommend the annexation of approximately 233 linear feet of the existing right-of-way extension from Allenville Road that borders this property on the north. Does provide access to it from Allenville Road. This right-of-way was dedicated to the state with the recording of the plat for Twin Creeks Section 4 back in March of 1998, so it was something that the County Planning Commission did require to be dedicated. It has not been maintained by Rutherford County or the state, and it would not meet town standards as a public road, so any development of this property would require an upgrade to this right-of-way to town standards to facilitate access to a commercial property. This property does lie entirely within the 100-year floodplain, so development would be required to submit a hydraulic and hydrologic study and fully comply with Article 9 of the zoning ordinance, which is our FEMA requirements. Sewer is not currently available. That nearest sewer is located at the rear of the vacant property, addressed as 1996 Allenville Road, so the developer would be required to obtain easements to reach that sewer location to extend sewer to this property. There are several challenges with this piece of property. The Planning Commission did review this, did recommend approval, and staff would also recommend approval.
Questions for Kevin on this? Okay, seeing none, we'll go to the public, see if there's anyone here to speak for or against this property. Seeing no one, then we'll close public hearing, go to council for a motion.
Move we approve.
The motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item G is our housekeeping item, which is consideration of a resolution and memorandum of ordinance 24-21 relative to the annexation in C2 zoning of property located on tax map 55C, Group B, parcel 35. Do I have a motion? Motion, do we have a second? Second. Motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item H is almost our last public hearing. It's a consideration of an ordinance relative to the rezoning of tax map 54, parcel 50.01 to go from R3 to PRD. It's requested by Kyle Griffin on behalf of S. Collins 2 Properties LLC. The property requested to be rezoned contains approximately 3.53 acres and is located at 8286 Rocky Fork, Amable Road. Kevin?
Yes, Mayor and Council, this is a rezoning request. It's on Rocky Fork, Almaville Road, about 600 feet south of the intersection with Morton Lane. Land use plan would support medium-density, single-family in this area. Surrounding zoning is a mix of R3, PRD, which are the Stewart's Glen and Cedar Hills PRDs, and also as well as the Blakeney Commons PUD. This proposed PRD is for 7 single-family lots for a density of 1.98 houses per acre. Houses would range from 2,400 to 3,600 square feet in size. It'd be a mix of brick, stone, and concrete siding with a minimum of 75% of all elevations being brick or stone. For the 6 new houses, there is an existing house which would remain on one of the lots. All requirements of the town with regard to open space, setbacks, and parking would be met. One access point is shown through the adjoining Stewart's Glen development via extension of a private road. This area does lie within the service area of CUD for water, and the will serve letter has been issued for this development, and they have indicated that they can't meet fire flow requirements. The Planning Commission reviewed this request, did recommend approval with one condition to show a buffer between the proposed lots 4, 5, and 6 and the adjoining property to the west. And with that condition, staff would also recommend approval.
And this was the one that the homeowner came and spoke, asking for more privacy, and they came back and added that. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Questions for Kevin or comments? Okay. Seeing no questions or comments, we'll go to the public to see if there's anyone here to speak for or against this item. Seeing no one, we'll close public hearing and go to council for a motion.
Move we approve. Second.
A motion by Jerry and a second by
Tim.
Tim.
Yep. I'm going to be abstaining.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, with one abstention? Okay. Our last public hearing tonight under item I is consideration of an ordinance relative to the rezoning of tax map 33, parcel 87.00 to go from R1 with ESO to PRD with ESO. It's requested by Rob Mulchin on behalf of Odessa Louise Settles. The property requested to be rezoned contains approximately 6.78 acres and is located on Gamble Lane. Kevin?
Yes, this is a rezoning request on Gamble Lane. It's about 1,000 feet from the intersection with Union Springs Road West. This land use plan for this area is our 24 Gateway character area, which is kind of a mix of retail and uses as well as multifamily. And it's with the anticipation of an interchange there at Union Springs Road. The surrounding zoning is a mix of R1 and R3. This proposed PRD is for 22 single-family lots. It's for density of 3.24 houses per acre. Houses would range from 1,700 to 2,600 square feet. It will be a mix of brick, stone, and concrete siding. They're meeting all of our open space parking and setback requirements. One access point is shown from Gamble Lane. That would actually be a new collector road, as shown on the major thoroughfare plan. This road is shown to eventually connect Gamble Lane to 7 Oaks Boulevard to provide additional avenues for future traffic flow. The discussion at the Planning Commission did include a potential fence to be added on the western side of lots 5 and 6. And the developer's representative committed to that at the meeting, and since that meeting we did receive revised plans, which we have in your packet there. This does show a 6-foot vinyl privacy fence along that property line. The planning commission did review that, this request, did recommend approval. Staff would also recommend approval.
Questions on this? Seeing no questions or comments, we will go to the public to see if there's anyone here to speak for or against this item. If you'll come forward.
Hello, I'm Rebecca Henderson. I live at 3600 Gamble Lane, the one right next to what looks to be a retention pond, and I'm obviously within the city limits. I'm not necessarily opposed to, and sorry, this is my first time.
You're fine.
I'm not really opposed to necessarily the development. I would just, if there's a request that can be put in to maybe make them bigger, because most of all the properties around there are like we're a third of an acre, half an acre, and it just seems like, and they're all, 2,500 to plus square foot homes. I feel like this is gonna diminish the property value of those that are around us, so if that could be taken into consideration at any point. I also didn't quite hear what he said. Where would the fence line be?
It was just the buffer fence on the west side.
Okay, all right, so that's not as much of as a problem, but that would be my ask of consideration if that's allowed, so. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Thank you.
We appreciate you coming and speaking. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, then we'll close the public hearing and go to council.
Well, obviously, we saw this at planning. There were 2 lots removed from this originally, I believe. Was that right, Kevin?
Yeah, there were 24 originally.
Yeah, and that was to try to help enhance some of the lot sizes there, so.
Well, I think with the overlay that we've kind of already laid out there for that piece, that strip of, I guess, future entrance into town, we talked about the stacking or kind of the transition from the road back. This kind of provides that middle ground between more dense products and less dense behind it, which we know there's another item on the agenda which is directly in front of this one, which is the more dense product. So if we're staying consistent with what we said we wanted there when we laid that overlay out, it is consistent with this kind of the more dense closer to the road and then back out as we go back out to the single-family homes.
So Kevin, we as council and some that come to quite a few of the meetings know what we're talking about with the overlay, but can you talk a little bit about the overlay for some of those that might not be as familiar with it?
Yeah, when we extended Enid Springs Road from Old Nashville Highway to meet up with Rocky Fork and all the way to I-24, at that time, we did put in place the Enid Springs overlay, which is primarily deals a lot with not as much use as more, but more certainly landscaping requirements and screening and architectural requirements and things like that. And so, but with that also, we looked at, with the Enid Springs Road, from a land use standpoint, we did look at a lot of your higher density as well as commercial along Enid Springs. And as you move away from Enid Springs, both north and south, you would see kind of that transition back to a lot of what's already there, which is a lot of single family, kind of an R3 type density. So I think that's what Mr. Sullivan was talking about, was that this is kind of in that transition area.
Okay. Other comments or questions?
What were the lot sizes for these?
It's 3.24.
It's three per acre.
Per acre.
10,000.
They're larger.
There's, I don't know exactly, I mean, they could, certainly, some of them are a little larger than others.
The corner lots are a little bigger.
Yeah, corner lots are bigger. I mean, you got 22 houses on 6, well, almost 7 acres. So they're, I think most of them are in that 7,000 to 8,000, 9,000 square feet. Some of them are bigger than that.
Kevin, was this the one that came in prior to this submittal for a townhome project?
They didn't ever actually submitted a townhome project. I did talk to some people about townhomes on there.
Okay.
Yeah, the pattern book says minimum lot size is 6,000 square feet, but of course, that's the minimum.
Right.
Other questions? Do we have a motion?
I'll motion to approve.
A motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Move on to new business. Under our Planning Commission report, item 1 is consideration of an ordinance relative to the annexation and PRD zoning of property located on tax map 51, part of parcel 8.11. It's requested by Adam Lawrence with Gamble Designs Collaborative on behalf of Michael and Marie Burke, containing 17.42 acres. The property is located at 6304 Lee Road.
Yes, Mayor and Council, this is an annexation request for a portion of the property at 6304 Lee Road, which is about 800 feet west of the intersection with Lancaster Road. This is for that rear portion of that parcel of land. It would not include the 6.38 acres along Lee Road, which would remain in the county. The land use plan would support a medium density in this area, single-family residential. Surrounding zoning is a mix of PRD, which is Buckingham Hills, and then the what is to be called Hidden Springs, which came in as the Weekly Lee Road subdivision, and as well as the Olive Branch PUD in town and RM in Rutherford County. The town would be providing all services to this area upon annexation except for water, which would be provided by CUD. They have indicated that they do not have adequate fire flow to this area at this time. The proposed PRD is for 47 single-family lots on 17.42 acres, which is about 2.7 lots per acre. Access would be from the existing Stubb Street at Napa Valley Drive, as well as the proposed Hidden Springs development to the west. This project was annexed in October of 2023. The preliminary plat was approved by the Planning Commission in April of 2024. It is proposed that this request would be phase 3 of that development. The proposed lot sizes, house sizes, materials, et cetera, are the same as that previously approved PRD, and this would basically just be an extension of that previous approved development, is what they're asking for. They are meeting our requirements regarding open space and parking and setbacks and those things. The Planning Commission did review this, did recommend approval. Staff would also recommend approval.
Tim or Mark, anything on this?
I won't be discussing or voting.
Got it?
I think, Kevin summed it up. It's a continuation, and it is consistent with surrounding zoning. It meets our requirements, and that's why it was approved planning.
Other questions or comments?
Kevin, the 17.42 acres, that includes the green space as well, is that correct?
That's the total tract, yes.
Okay. So 2.7 per lot is actually a little bit more when you take the green space out, is
We
that
took the
correct?
green space out, but the overall density is the 2.7.
Okay.
Other questions?
So the front 6 acres is what's, the owners are
Gonna keep.
retaining, and they're gonna stay in the county.
That is correct. They
That
do
part.
not request annexation of that
Okay.
6.38 acres.
Other comments or questions on this one? Do I have a motion?
I'll move we approve.
A motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 2 is consideration of an ordinance relative to the rezoning of tax map 32, parcels 29.00, 29.02, 29.03, 29.04, and 29.05 to go from R1 to a PRD. It's requested by Kyle Griffin with CSDG on behalf of the property owners. The properties requested to be rezoned contain approximately 40.1 acres and are located on Rock Springs Road. Kevin?
Yes, Mayor and Council, this is 5 tracts of land that do total 40.1 acres. They're on Rock Springs Road between the intersections with Cooks Lane and Walden Road. Land use plan would support medium-density, single-family in this area. Surrounding zoning is R1 and PRD, which are the Gwen Farms and Cooks Lane PRDs in town, and R1 in Laverne. The proposed PRD is for 107 single-family lots, which is a density of about 2.7 units per acre. Houses would range from 1,600 to 3,000 square feet in size. Would be a mix of the brick, stone, and concrete siding. There are additional architectural requirements within the PRD request with regard to material percentages, and porches, et cetera. Those are all in your pattern book. All requirements of the town with regard to open space, parking, and setbacks will be met. One access point is proposed to Rock Springs Road, and the development would also connect to the adjoining Cooks Lane development. A traffic study was completed for this development in conjunction with the Cooks Lane development, and will require improvements within Rock Springs Road to include a left turn lane into the development. This area does lie within CUD service area for water. Will serve letter has been issued that details some off-site system upgrades which will be necessary in order to meet fire flow requirements. The Planning Commission did review this request. They did recommend approval with 3 conditions. We just asked them to show the size of the on and off-site sewer mains. Regarding one of their pages, we asked them to add to the comment regarding HVAC units being screened from right-of-way if the rear of the home is just face a public right-of-way, and to extend the 20-foot buffer strip along the western border of the project to include lot 55, which is the one at the very front lot at Rock Springs Road on that side. So with those conditions, again, the Planning Commission did recommend approval. Staff would also recommend approval.
Council, questions, comments?
Well, I had a few questions. I reached out and asked a few questions and got some answers back from them. I was looking at what was mentioned tonight. It said minimum lot size 4,500 on one of the things that we got. I reached out and I was told that the minimum lot size is 6,300. Does anybody know which one it is? Do you know?
I don't have it off the top of my head. I don't
Okay.
It's in this manual. I'll look it up.
It was, I thought it was in something that we were seeing. I just wanted to be sure on the information that we received. I know I talked to, heard from the developer, and he was telling me, I asked him what the breakdown was on the particular lots. And he said that there was 30 right now scheduled to be from 6,000 to 7,500, 41 from 7,500 to 10,000 square foot, and then 36 above 10,000 square feet, which they said averaged 9,400. I also had asked him about what the size was on the homes, and he said that what they have turned in, the average is 2,600 square feet. I had said that my concern, and we talked about this, I know we're talking about things that we've already discussed before, but I had concerns in the past of, we've been being told that we were going to build homes from 1,800 to 3,400 square feet, and then when it gets built, we never see the 3,400 square foot homes. So I reached out, and he said that currently the average is supposed to be 2,600, ranging from that 1,800 square feet all the way up to 30, 31 or 32. So,
Jerry, the plan book says the proposed minimum lot size is 6,250.
Okay. I was thinking it was 62 something or 63. So okay. All right. So anyway, I just wanted to say I do appreciate them getting back with me and at least answering some of the questions I had.
You good? Okay. Other comments or questions?
This one has been really tough for me. I've been back and forth on every aspect of it. I've talked to the Hills, I've talked to the Morgans, I've heard from neighbors who've called me and have emailed me, and it's been really tough. And I'm gonna be honest, I walked in the door tonight and I'm still not sure. I completely, 100% agree with the Morgans' right to sell their property. Its property rights is, in my mind, a staple of the freedoms that we enjoy, and they have the right to sell their property. When I look at Miss Mabel, who's 88 years old, if this development isn't the development that gets to develop, then when is one that she's going to be able to sell? That's a little tough to discuss. There's a couple things. I went out and looked at Century Homes developments. I went and looked at their website today, and whenever, I think when we get to public hearing, I think maybe somebody from Century will probably get up. I've got a couple of questions around that. This is a tough one, because I understand and I agree with points on both sides of the table. Concessions, 20% or 15, 18% reduction in lots. The addition of the 30-foot or more buffer between Miss Reasonover and the development, the buffer along the road are all good concessions. And it's sometimes more than we've been able to get from other developers. But I also agree with the argument that we've got to transition somewhere, and where is that transition if it's not here? So I don't think I helped anybody make a decision, but this has been a tough one. This is.
Thanks, Steve. I'm gonna agree with you.
I can tell you. I mean, I literally 5 seconds after I talked to Mr. Morgan, I thought, I'm supporting this. And then 10 minutes later, I get an email that says another point, and it's like, oh, well, I understand that point too. And it's been back and forth this whole way. One of the sticking points I have now is honestly the developments that I've seen on Century's website. I really want to know which one of those developments closely mimics this development, because I didn't really like any of them. There was a lot of hardy board and a lot of siding, and not a lot of brick and not a lot of stone. And so there's some requirements in here where they're talking about 51% or 50% or 75% having back porches. I'd really like to know which one of those developments most closely mimics this one, so that I can actually see representations of what they're suggesting. But that's the only question I really have still.
Steve, I agree with you. I've gone back and forth on the issues as well, and also went out and drove around today to look at the properties. And Amberton was one, because I met with them as well, and I looked at the different developments and the different building styles, and a lot of them are very, very similar. So it's been tough to decide on what's going to be the best. And I agree, there were quite a few concessions, and I appreciate the builders agreeing to meet with the community and take those ideas into the new plan that you created. Again, as Steve said, we don't always get that when the community talks to developers, that the developer is willing to take in those ideas and make them a part of the plan. So, but I'd like to hear some of that, hear which particular developments there are as well, because like I said, I actually went out and drove around to look and see what the Century product looked like in relationship to the other products that are being built in that area. So I'd like to know a little bit more myself.
Okay. One of the concerns I had, and I kind of voiced this before, was what are we going to do with Rock Springs? And so I asked Charles if he would be prepared to not only talk about Rock Springs, but also talk about Cook's Lane and what is that going to look like from sidewalks, from what we're actually going to do with the road, whether this develops and moves forward tonight or doesn't. it's gonna develop at some point. And so I wanna make sure that we all feel pretty comfortable with, what the road's gonna look like. So Charles, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, ma'am. Mayor and council, thank you for the opportunity to kind of give you an idea of recommendations that I've put together for the Rock Springs and Cooks Lane. If we could go to the next slide here. This is showing the area to start out with Rock Springs Road, which is here. The developer would continue the 3-lane section from Walden Road past the church up to their entrance point into the Maple Farms area. At that point, we would drop the sidewalk and the curb and gutter on the one side. And from that 3-lane section, after that, we would transition down to a 2-lane, 2 11-foot lanes, 4-foot shoulders, minimum 2-foot shoulder from the area from there through between the creek and the bluff. And in here, we would stay 2 lanes. And then at about 200, 150 to 200 feet here, before we get to Cook Lane, we would put in a left turn lane onto Cook's Lane. That would keep us out of the Mr. Reasonover's trees here, and the homeowner on this side said that he would be willing to, give land here that would flatten that horizontal curve, and we could dampen that slope for him there to make it mowable. So that's the way we would stay on there. I think that keeping
And
it.
up to the end of the property, that would be on the,
Right.
on the.
Now, the developer, they will do from the existing 3-lane section at Walden Road, Gwynn Farms, up to the end of their property line, which is about at this location. So that would be on the developer to build that road section through there.
Which, whether it's this developer or any other developer, that's gonna be our.
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
And then the town, we would take it from that point, which is about 1,500 feet, up to Cook's Lane. I met with the neighbors and homeowners, some of them that live in the Cook's Lane, Rock Springs area, to get their input on this. And they are in favor of keeping it 2 lanes through this section, since there's only 3 driveways. And there will be no driveways after the site going into Maple Farms to this area, because you're between the creek and the bluff. And feel like this will be kind of a traffic damper, to keeping it a 2-lane section a little tighter to help slow traffic before it hits Walden Road.
But we'll have shoulders on down,
Right,
which,
well,
where
from
it
here,
gets so bad.
it'll be 2 11-foot lanes with 4-foot to 2-foot shoulders once we get more into the detailed design of it. But that's the basic template that we would use. But we would get our turn lane up here, that'd be 150 to 200 foot left turn lane onto Cook's Lane. And then there would not be any other improvements on Rock Springs past Cook's Lane
At this point.
at this point, yes, ma'am.
And just so you all know, we have not budgeted for that 1,500, about that area right there. I think at some point, that's something we're gonna have to discuss if and when this development.
Maple Farms is in 3 phases. The first phase would only be from their site entrance up